It was brief, menacing, and impossible to trace. For Cindy James, the woman who answered, it was the start of a nightmare that would spiral into one of the most baffling and disturbing mysteries in Canadian history. Over the next 7 years, Cindy would endure a relentless campaign of harassment, stalking, and violence that defied explanation. But was she the victim of a sinister stalker, or was something far more complex at play? As always, viewer discretion is advised. Cindy James's life in the fall of 1982 seemed to be on an upward trajectory. Born on June 12, 1944, in Oliver, British Columbia, Cindy grew up in a military family as one of 6 children. Her father, Otto, was a strict disciplinarian in the Canadian Air Force, and Cindy often wrote in her diary about his use of corporal punishment. The family moved frequently, but when Otto was transferred back to France, Cindy chose to stay in Canada to attend nursing school. She kept in touch with her family through letters, often sharing updates about her studies and her life. In one of those letters, Cindy mentioned a male intern she had met. Not long after, she announced their engagement. Tragically, she later wrote that he had been diagnosed with terminal cancer and had taken his own life during a skiing trip. Strangely, Cindy never named him, and no one in her family ever met him. This led to speculation that the story might have been a fabrication, a figment of Cindy's imagination, or perhaps a lie to mask deeper emotional struggles. 3 years later, Cindy met Roy Makepeace, a South African doctor 18 years her senior. Despite Otto's concerns about the relationship, Cindy and Roy married. However, the marriage was far from perfect. In her letters to her family, Cindy described emotional distance and later physical abuse. By the summer of 1982, the couple decided to separate amicably. Cindy embraced her newfound freedom and threw herself into her work as a team coordinator at Blenheim House, a facility for children with behavioral issues. For the first 4 months after the separation, life seemed to be going well. But everything changed on October 7, 1982, when the phone rang. The call was brief. A hushed voice on the other end, followed by silence. Cindy dismissed it as a wrong number or a bad connection, but the calls kept coming. They grew more frequent, more obscene, and more threatening. Cindy reported the calls to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, who advised her to keep a log and change her phone number. But the harassment didn't stop. In fact, it escalated. Within weeks, Cindy began experiencing more than just phone calls. She spotted an intruder outside her house, found her porch light shattered, and discovered a rock thrown through her window. On October 19th, someone broke into her home and slashed a pillow on her bed. Each incident was reported to the police, but they found no evidence of forced entry or fingerprints. The lack of physical evidence raised questions, but Cindy's fear was undeniably real. The police initially focused on Roy as a suspect. He had a history of violence toward Cindy, but she insisted he wasn't capable of such torment. Roy even admitted to staking out her house, claiming he was trying to catch the perpetrator. Meanwhile, Cindy found solace, a constable assigned to her case. The two began dating, and Patrick moved in with her, offering both emotional support and protection. But even with Patrick by her side, the harassment continued. The incidents grew increasingly bizarre and violent. In late November 1982, Cindy found a photograph of a dead body pinned under her windshield wiper. Later that day, Patrick discovered that the phone lines to the house had been cut in 5 places. On Christmas Eve, Cindy received a note that read, "Merry Christmas," accompanied by a grotesque photo of a deceased woman with a neck wound. The harassment took a terrifying turn on January 27, 1983. When Cindy's friends, Tom and Agnes, found her crouched in her garage with a black nylon stocking tied tightly around her neck. She claimed 2 men had attacked her, but doctors found no evidence of the knife assault she described. This incident marked the beginning of police suspicions that Cindy might be orchestrating the events herself. Cindy's mental health became a focal point of the investigation. Over the years, she was diagnosed with various conditions, including histrionic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and dissociative personality disorder. These diagnoses suggested a pattern of dramatic behavior, emotional instability, and difficulty maintaining relationships. However, they didn't fully explain the physical evidence or the testimonies of witnesses who had seen and heard strange occurrences. Cindy's refusal to take a polygraph test and her resistance to psychiatric evaluations further complicated the case. While some saw her behavior as evidence of guilt, others believed she was a victim of gaslighting, a woman tormented not only by an unknown assailant, but also by a system that doubted her. The harassment followed Cindy even after she moved twice. In 1984, her private investigator, Ozzie, found her unconscious in her home, with a knife driven through her hand and a note that read, "Now you must die." In 1985, Cindy was found in a ditch, badly beaten and with a nylon stocking around her neck. Each time, she had no memory of how she ended up in these situations. The final act came on June 8, 1989, when Cindy's body was discovered in the backyard of an abandoned house in Richmond, British Columbia. She was hogtied, with a nylon stocking around her neck and needle puncture wounds on her arm. An autopsy revealed lethal doses of sedatives in her system, including morphine at 10 times the legal limit. A coroner's inquest in 1990 brought together over 80 witnesses, including family members, police officers, and medical experts. The jury heard conflicting testimony about Cindy's mental state and the possibility that she could have staged her own attacks. A not expert demonstrated that it was possible for Cindy to have tied herself up, but this didn't explain the numerous witnesses who had seen and heard evidence of a stalker. In the end, the jury was unable to determine whether Cindy's death was a homicide, an accident, or a suicide. Her death certificate simply states that she died as a result of an unknown event. The case of Cindy James remains one of Canada's most perplexing mysteries. Was she the victim of a relentless stalker who evaded detection for 7 years? Or was she a deeply troubled woman who staged her own torment, ultimately taking her own life in a final, tragic act? The truth may never be known, but the story of Cindy James serves as a haunting reminder of the complexities of human behavior and the limits of our understanding. What do you think happened? Was Cindy a victim of a sinister plot, or was she caught in a web of her own making? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you have a story suggestion, feel free to submit it using the form in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.